Hey, it's Thomas with Pedal Jumper Adventures again. We're in the middle of winter here in Illinois, so we were able to get our e-bikes all set up for our next adventure. But I want to talk about a previous adventure that we went on. Last year in June, we took a trip. It was a 2-week trip. We went to Yellowstone, Grand Tetons, and then we went up to Glacier, and then we went to Mount Rushmore, Badlands, Wind Cave National Park. And on our way out there, we did stop in Nebraska at Toadstool Geographic Park, just to camp. But it actually ended up turning into an amazing place to walk trails and climb rocks, and then it's just out in the middle of nowhere, so it was pretty awesome. But what I want to take time to do today is talk about our Yellowstone trip and the Tetons, because they were just right there next to each other, and talk about what we did to plan the trip, because we live it's 18 and a half hours away if we just drive all the way there. Now, I know people are wondering, why don't you just fly there? Well, first of all, flying's pretty expensive. I mean, we in our family, we have quite a few kids, so it could be cost prohibitive. Plus, too, I think that driving there is part of the trip, part of the journey, part of the fun. Our first night we stayed in an Airbnb, and so that way I could prepare ourselves for our camping. So we stayed in this Airbnb, and the place was right next to a cemetery, and I didn't realize. I mean, when I say right next to it, you look out the window and there's the cemetery. And my wife was like, "What did you sign us up for?" And it was kind of fun. It was a great Airbnb. It was a fun experience. But if we had just flown out there, we wouldn't have had that fun, kind of spooky experience. So, all right, I'm going to get right into it. Again, Thomas with Pedal Jumper Adventures. Make sure you like and subscribe our channel. We're not professional YouTubers. We would just want to show and keep these for memory for what we've done and maybe help others. So, first of all, like I said, we're 18 and a half hours away. That does include stopping for breaks. We have a wide range of age for our kids, from 2 to 16 at the time. So, you're gonna have to take a lot of bathroom breaks. You're gonna stop a lot. Thankfully, there's a lot of Walmarts along the way, so we can just stop and stretch our legs, go to the bathroom, get some snacks and all that stuff we want to. But we broke up the journey. We stayed in an Airbnb in Nebraska, and then we got all the way on the other side of Nebraska, and we stopped at Toadstool. And then on the following day, we got into Wyoming, and we got to our campsite. We stayed at Rex Hale Campground. So all in all, I think it was probably about a 22-hour drive from our home all the way there. So there was quite a few stops. But anyways, so when you first think of Yellowstone, you look at a map and you're like, that's pretty easy. It's pretty doable. There's a lot of stops. Yellowstone is huge. I mean, just to kind of give you an example, when I booked our campsite, now keep in mind, you're going to want to plan ahead more than 6 months in advance. Sometimes some of these places you have to get in a year in advance. I didn't start planning until January, and we went in June, and a lot of the places were already booked up. So at that point, when I was planning in January, it was kind of you get what you get type of situation. Fortunately, I found a campground, Rex Hale Campground. It's on the east side of Yellowstone, about 24 minutes from the entrance, the east entrance, so not too far away. It does have electric, water, and all that stuff, so awesome for that. We were tent camping and also using our Ford Transit to stay in too, so we had a mixture of that going on. But it took us 24 minutes. I'd say it was closer to 30 minutes to get from there to the entrance. And then at the entrance, you take your family picture with the Yellowstone sign, because everybody wants to do that. We want to too, because it's a memorable thing. But then from there, once we got to the entrance, to get to the next attraction, if that's what you want to label them as, our next attraction that we could get to was the Fishing Bridge Visitor Center. And from our campground to that visitor center, I mean, Google Maps says it's 1 hour and 3 minutes, but I can tell you right now, it's not 1 hour and 3 minutes. It's closer to 1 hour and a half, hour 45 minutes, because there's stops along the way that you probably want to make. There's a family of grizzly bears, which we'll show a picture of that that we took. And the great thing is you can pull over. Of course, you can't pull off into the grass or anything like that because, you know, national park rules, and you don't want to damage nature and all that stuff. But anyway, so you're going to get slowed down because you see other things. So, you know, an hour and a half, hour 45, I would probably plan on an hour and a half to 2 hours if you're on the east side. Now, the other entrances, there are quite a few other entrances that people can stay at. You can take tour buses and stuff like that. But for our specific needs, we stayed on the east side. And from there, we were able to get to everything that we wanted to. One of the softwares that I like to use, actually it's one of two. The first one is the National Park Service app. It's great because you can pull it up on your phone and it shows you where all the visitor centers are, where all the trailheads are, where all the most common attractions that people can stop at, sightseeing stuff, lookouts, stuff like that. So first thing I like to do is I like to go to each of the parks that we're going to. I look at the map, kind of see where the visitor centers are, and then see what I'm dealing with, where we can all go and stuff like that. So the first map here is Grand Teton map. You know, the Tetons are very small, but we figured we're so close to it by going to Yellowstone, and it was one place that I really wanted to go to anyway. So we just went ahead and made one of the days where we went to the Tetons. Unfortunately, we weren't able to go all into Jackson Hole because there was a road that had gotten washed out, so we weren't able to make it all the way there. But then I also did the same thing for the Yellowstone. I pulled up a map of the Yellowstone. I looked at where all the popular features are. You know, the ones that we grew up with seeing. You know, Grand Prismatic, Old Faithful, and trying to plot those out on a map and see, oh, okay, this is where everything's at. It even shows the campgrounds, so that's helpful. You know, one thing that I would probably plan on if and when we get to go back, if we get to go back at some point, is trying to stay at a campground that's in Yellowstone. That would probably save us a lot of time, but we were able to still see everything and spend a lot of time at a lot of the popular attractions. We did have to change some plans to do that. What I use to book our campsites, the first thing I look for is a campsite at the national park. So recreation.gov is my primary app for that. When you look at it, you can put in wherever you're staying. You can even go to a specific state. So if I'm looking for Nebraska, I can put it in there. I can filter it down to water, electric, and all that stuff. And I can search all the way along our route. So I try and look along our route, see what national park or other government campsites there are. And it'll show you what's available. You can also set up alerts and all that stuff too, to if something's not available. So, which I'm in the process of doing for our next trip. I think I've got it all figured out and booked up. But one thing to note about recreation.gov app is it's a rolling 6 months. So usually most of the popular places, if it says it's going to be available, you know, in June 18th, then you want to go back 6 months from that June 18th, and that's the first available date that you can book that specific day. Now you can book that specific day and book, you know, 2, 3, 4 days, up to 7 days sometimes into the future for the ones that you can't book yet. And I would recommend doing that. That's what we usually do. So, and then if we're having a hard time finding, you know, something on recreation.gov, I'll pull up Campendium too. And I'm going to put all these links down in the comments and the notes so that way it's something easy for you to click on. Campendium will show you all the public, private campgrounds, also some free ones too. We haven't tried any of the free sites yet. I like to stay where there's usually facilities, just with, you know, size of our group and what we're doing and stuff like that. So, and then the last thing that I use to plan is my favorite app is Wonderlog. I'm not a paid sponsor for this. This is just something that I've found along the way. It's free. There are some pro things that you can pay for, but what I like to do is the first thing I like to do is go in there, and you can see it here on the screen. I put in all the stops, you know, where I want to go, where my family wants to go. I put all those in there. And if you notice over here on the right side, it also pulls up a map. So when you put on all those stops, it's putting little dots where those stops are at. So then if it's a big park like Yellowstone is, you can try and carve it up over several days, which is what I did, because I looked at the map and that Grand Loop Road is one big circle. It's got some spokes coming off of it going to different areas. And I just said, okay, it's going to take me this long to get here, and then I have this much time to cover this. So we put all those sites in, and then on this next screen here, you're going to see that we can pull up what's called an itinerary view. And so then what I start doing is I go, okay, on this day, I want to cover this much stuff. So like on our first day there, we got to our campsite. It was late afternoon. I want to say it was like 3 or 4. So we set up our campsite at Rex Hill Campground. And then it was about 30 minutes to the entrance station. And then the visitor center, by the time we got in there, the visitor center was like closed. So it was like after 5. Then we stopped at Yellowstone Lake. There's a nice little lookout there where we were able, that's that Sedge Bay is what it's called. But we were able to pull up. There's like a rock beach. There's picnic tables. There's vault bathrooms. And we just brought our dinner with us. We ate. And it was very scenic. A lot of pictures. Kids were able to run around, stretch their legs and all that stuff. So we were able to do that, and that crosses that day off of our list, crosses off those things. So we got to see Yellowstone Lake, got to take a picture with it. It's a huge lake. You're going to see a lot of it. And then, each day after that, we were able to plan different things. So then, that was on a Monday. We got there Monday evening. So obviously the visitor centers and stuff were closed. And then the next day we went to, which would have been Tuesday, we ended up stopping. Our first stop was Fishing Bridge Visiting Center. Get our stamp, get our Junior Ranger booklets and all that stuff, because our kids love doing the Junior Ranger booklet program. If you don't know what that is, I'll put a link to that down below. It's fun. The kids get to learn about the national park that they're at, or the national monument or historic site. They get to fill out a booklet, they get to turn it in, and then they get to do a pledge with the ranger, and then they get a little badge, and it's very cool. So we stopped at the Fishing Bridge Center, and how I broke it up, I was like, okay, I have only so many days at Yellowstone, and in this case, I had part of Monday, then I had Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I had planned on a Friday, but like I said, this was a 2-week trip, and I wanted to make sure that we were able to get everything done. So if we had to, we could make some stops Friday. But we still had to get to Glacier Friday night. So that Tuesday, we went to Old Faithful. We Grand Prismatic. The one issue we had was we tried getting into Norris Geyser Basin, and it was packed. I mean, we pulled into the parking lot area. It was packed. They have overflow parking lot leading up to that entrance to go to the parking lot. So it's out on the main road there, Grand Loop Road and Norris. Even all that area was packed. So knowing that we would encounter stuff like this, I was like, okay, I'm going to push that to another day and try and get there first thing in the morning. That's the key thing. If you're trying to go to these major places, you're going to want to, if it's something that's really on your list, you want to get there probably no later than 9 a.m. I think we got to most of these places no later than 9 a.m. A quick side note about Old Faithful. If it spouts off real quick and then it stops, just wait. It's probably going to go again and go a little bit stronger, because I made that mistake. I was like, oh, hey, we got there, and I saw a little bit of it, and then so we ran around for the next eruption. We did some trails and walked around the visitor center, and the kids did their Junior Ranger program, and which very interesting. I would stay for that. A lot of information, but then just wait around and watch the full eruption. Give it some time. It's usually not a quick thing. So because we missed part of it because of that. But anyways, so then we had to shift gears. We were like, okay, we know we couldn't do that. So then we went to Mammoth Hot Springs. We drove around there. There's a nice little drive path that you can go around and watch or see all the little features of it. It's in the upper part before you go actually down into the Mammoth Hot Springs area. And then from there, we went to Lamar Valley, drove through there, and I figured, we have to go back to town to get some supplies. We actually wanted to get some hot food, so we took the Beartooth Highway. That was a long route from Yellowstone, and it's very scenic, a lot of switchbacks and high country and all that stuff, but it took us back to Cody, Wyoming, and it was very beautiful and just very, very long trip, so be prepared for that. So that was our first official full day, and we knocked out a majority of the sites that we really wanted to see, Old Faithful, Grand Prismatic and stuff like that, Biscuit Basin, and then our next day, that was the day that we had decided that we were going to go to the Tetons. I only devoted one day to the Tetons. I'm going to tell you in the future, I would probably plan on 2 or 3 days. It's a very beautiful place. So we went through the east entrance of Yellowstone, then we went south, exited, and then we went through the north entrance of the Tetons. Stopped. There's a sign there that you can take a picture at for the Tetons, and then you've got to enter. And we stopped at Coulter Bay. We stopped at a visitor center there, get our stamp, Junior Ranger booklets, and stuff like that. And then we went to the Jenny Lake. And I got to tell you, I was really impressed with Jenny Lake. It was, there's a trail there. Sometimes you can mismeasure the trail map. My wife's looking at me because she knows what I'm talking about. I thought it was only like a mile long trail. And I even looked on all trails that it said it. I showed it to her. I said, look, it's a mile. Let's do it. Turns out it was like 3.5. But we got to see Hidden Falls, and there was a moose. We saw several moose. There was even reports of bears nearby. Fortunately, we didn't see them. And then there's a 3.5 mile trek through the woods. We decided to take the little ferry boat back. So, and they don't charge you the same price as going there and back. There's a discount that you get for just taking it back. So, but that was fun. Thing about Jenny Lake, it's busy. It was just as busy as Norris Geyser Basin, in Yellowstone. We had to actually park out on the road that leads up to it, and then walk up to the visitor center, and then do our trail. So I think we probably did almost 6 or 7 miles just that day, just at Jenny Lake. And it's so beautiful there. You got the mountains, and you got the lake, and all the scenic, beautiful spots. But anyways, so once we finished that up, we headed back to Yellowstone, or our campground in Yellowstone. We did stop on our way to the Tetons. We did stop at West Thumb and do a couple little trails there. There's one that's a boardwalk. You walk through, and there's mud pots and stuff like that. And it was very colorful water from all the minerals and stuff. So, and then we headed back to our campground and went to sleep and woke back up and tried to finish up the rest of the stuff at Yellowstone. We had. That day we went to Norris, got there. I told everybody, I said, hey, I'd like to get up early so we can get to this Norris Geyser Basin. We actually got there to the entrance station before they even opened. So then you just go right on through. And we were still, had a hard time finding a parking spot. I was able to squeeze us into one, and that early. So you're going to want to go there earlier. So we got in, and I'm glad we did. That was probably one of the best stops that we had, just walking through all that beautiful scenery. And we're going to show some pictures of that too. But then after that, it was just, all the other things that were on our list that we kind of didn't really get to. So we do Canyon Village, which was great because we brought our lunch, and just so you know, the prices for food in the park are kind of expensive, which, it's a remote location. But one of the cool things is there at the Canyon Village, there's a general store there, and you can actually get like the ramen style bowls, and they have hot water, and you just pour the hot water into it, and your noodles soften up. So if noodles are your thing, which for our family it is, so it was a great little hot treat, because some of the days were, even though it's the end of June, some of the days were still pretty chilly, especially if you're by like a canyon or by water sources. It kind of gets chilly still. But then we went and looked at the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone, and we stopped at a lookout that was amazing. Great view of the canyon. There wasn't like a waterfall or anything like that, but we could see the river. The waterfall wasn't there yet from all the ice melt and all that stuff. But let me tell you, when you walk down there, that wind is fierce. We have a funny picture of me like kind of holding on to my daughter, because you almost thought she was going to blow away, because that's how strong the wind is. But I would recommend definitely taking a stop there and just taking in just the amazing view. Then we stopped at Mud Volcano area. We were able to stop at the Dragon's Mouth Spring, which was cool, because you're walking up and you got all these like all this mud's bubbling, and that's why they call it Mud Volcano. And you're walking up and you see this like big cavernous opening in this rock face, and the water's just like, and you can just kind of feel it in the ground. This water's getting sucked in and pushed out, and you're hearing all the sound and steam, and it was just an amazing stop that we experienced. So and then we went back to our campsite, and I would say that in the future we were able to stop at all the places in those 3 days. So Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, some little bit on Monday, and one of those days we went to the Tetons. So we kind of did Yellowstone in 2.5 days realistically. For the future, I would try and get a campsite inside of Yellowstone, especially one that has like electric or something like that. It'd save a lot of gas, save a lot of time. Not just save you time, it'd give you more time to stop and stay at places, because we weren't rushed by any means, because you kind of have to move with the crowd anyways, because there's a lot of these places, there's crowds of people. So like Grand Prismatic, man, I probably could have spent all day there. It's just so beautiful, and there's so many different trails that you can go on. But the other thing I want to note is there are gas stations in Yellowstone. Gas is a little bit more expensive than what you would normally pay, but I mean, you're in a remote location, so you're paying for not only the convenience, but also being able to get gas in a national park. But overall, I just using a bunch of different apps to plan it out. And like I said, you're going to want to plan well in advance, because whenever the opening date is for those campsites, you're going to want to be there you want to be on the app as soon as that time changes to that time, because those campsites, they're gone. They're gone quick, especially the really not good ones. We were fortunate. We got the one at Rex Hills just outside of Yellowstone. It was a nice one. There's no signal. A lot of Yellowstone has no signal. When you do, I just gotta make a joke, because it's funny. I did most of the driving. I'm driving along, and I could tell when we get signal, because the kids would be like come out of their zombie phase, and they'd be like, and I'd be like, oh hey, we got signal. So I would definitely save your maps. If you use Google Maps, save the map, so that way you don't have to try and find signal or try and go off of memory. Fortunately I have a really good memory, so I did a lot of the driving off memory. But save your maps. There are other apps that you can use that save the maps, so that way you can use them offline. I just downloaded it from Google Maps and went from there. So I'll post all the links and apps that we use in the comments and in the notes for the video. And hopefully this helps your family try and plan out. We took kids with us, so it's a little bit different for us than, say, another family. So take what you need. Hopefully it helps you plan out. If you have any questions, you can post in the comments. I'll definitely answer any questions that you have. Also, make sure you like and subscribe our channel. Again, we're not professional YouTubers, but we'd like to try and share our knowledge and also document our experiences. Till our next adventure, I'm Thomas with Puddle Jumper Adventures.